Hello dear viewers, welcome to yet another episode of Decent Conversations. I'm your girl Tabitha Mwai, and we are all about having lives that work. And today our topic of discussion is on gender roles in the 21st century. And we are having a very beautiful panel, well knowledgeable on issues of gender, and I wish them to introduce themselves, starting from my farthest left.
My name is Anastasia Gunjuri. I am a champion of gender equality and I'm equally a writer.
My name is Patricia Jeru. I am a counseling psychologist.
My name is Judith Mongeri. I advocate for gender issues and I'm also a development communications practitioner.
And we have our sign language interpreter, who is Salome Njeri. Welcome to the show. So I would want us to just dive in immediately. And when we've had numerous conversations about gender, everywhere I go I'm hearing gender rights, women's rights. There's so much confusion when you talk about gender. What does gender mean and what are gender roles? We can start with Anastasia.
Well, gender, as many people may not know, is basically a social construction. There's so many people who perceive it as something natural, but it is a social construction. And when you talk about gender roles, it's basically the expectations that society has on how the different gender should relate. We have men and women and what they need to do.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you can add something, Patricia.
As she said, gender is dynamic. Gender is what we perceive as a community, like what our men can do here. Probably men in the US cannot do. So it's dynamic. It changes depending on. And our gender roles also change. Yeah.
Just exactly from what she mentioned, when we speak about gender issues, gender definition of gender, there is something that can be done in my society that women are meant to do, but when you go to another society, it's nothing to be done by women. It's a taboo to be done in that society. So basically, the psychosocial status of a community or a country defines gender roles.
Okay, so gender roles, how then is gender related to sex? Because we see some forms when we feel they either ask you what is your sex, others ask you what is your gender. So how do we differentiate the two?
There's a very close relation between the two, although now the challenge is that because of how it's been used repeatedly, so many people use one to mean the other, which is usually not the case. Sex is purely biological. There's no social explanation for sex. And it starts from the bit where you're conceived, that point, and then all through birth. And it's something that takes time, but it's a biological clock, biological process. Gender is social. Gender, I'd say, starts the point at which you've been born. You know, how the people perceive you and the roles and the tags they give you after you've been born. But sex starts at the point of conception.
Interesting. So the only challenge we're having is we are using it interchangeably.
Yeah.
So we have a gap in understanding what now gender is and what sex is.
There is a huge gap, and the reason why I'd say is the case is because when you talk about sex, we talk about male or female. When you talk about gender, we talk about, say, man and woman. But then, because of how society thinks males should behave, it becomes synonymous to being a man. So someone will imagine being a man makes you, being whatever you do as a man is something biological, and it's something that is natural, yet that is not the case. It's just because it's something that has been repeatedly done until it's part of the system.
Okay, I like that. So that brings me to the question of, then how do I know my gender roles? How do we identify them? How do we get to know? Because if it's social, as you've said, what is acceptable in my community might not be acceptable somewhere else. So, and given the background of we're in the 21st century, how do we now talk about gender roles?
See, in the issue of gender roles, it's just something to do, it has everything to do with socialization. Socialization is that process where someone learns or you acquire your personal, where you know your personal roles, where you internalize the ideology of a community. And there are agents to this. Agent number one is culture. The culture is very dynamic. there's that traditional culture where we know that an African man, blah 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 blah, a Kikuyu man, blah blah blah, a Meru man, blah 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 blah. Then now there's also the customized one where we know our family. We are Kikuyus, yes, but in my family, we do this, we do that. So we learn our roles. Number one, from culture. Where were you born? Are you guys traditional or are you custom? Where were you born? Because you grew up seeing these things. Number two, religion is also a very major factor that contributes on how you get to know your roles. Because there are some people who are bound by religion. We as Muslims, women don't. We as Christians, I cannot, So your role is defined by your religion, by your beliefs. What do you believe? Are you traditionalists? Are you the modern Christians? Are you a Muslim? Are you a Hindu? Then that way you get to know, as a Hindu woman, as a Christian traditional Kikuyu woman, then there are things I can and cannot do. Another thing that really helps us understand our roles or really contributes to knowing our roles is the media. Media as a whole, mass media, social media, visual media, paper media, audio, because now this exposes us to other cultures. You get to know about the American culture. So you grew up knowing that as a girl, I cannot do this, but you saw in a movie a girl do this. So you imagine, okay, so I can also do this. And then you start hearing that what a man can do, a woman can also do. You grew up maybe knowing this happens, then this, you see other cultures, and they also expose you to other roles. You understand? Another really contributing factor on how we identify our roles is our social, let me say our economy, our work. At times you grew up knowing that if at the mention of engineer, it's masculine. We all know that growing up, most engineers were men. But now women have also come up. If the only job that you have studied, you have the papers, you're qualified and you studied it, then you can be. Because again, you will not sleep hungry in the house because kazi ya watchman ni ya mwanaume, kazi ya conductor ni ya mwanaume. So you will see even women doing these things. So work. Last but not least, education. We are taught, when we learn these things, you grew up knowing that probably I cannot do this. Then you go to school and you're taught and you're exposed and you see, okay, I can be a truck driver as a woman. I only need to know how to drive and just believe in myself, be confident, and I can do it. Who are your peers? Who are you relating with? Who influences you really? Who do you spend a lot of time with? Because again, what you hear, the people you stay with really influence who you become. Show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. So probably you grew up in a conservative family, but now your peers have really exposed you. They've opened you up. Because if you live with liberal people, then you become liberal. If you live with conservative people, you might just end up being conservative. So these are some of the things that really help us to identify our roles in our gender roles.
Okay, just to add on what she mentioned, as much as we are in the 21st century, there's a very big conflict between culture and what we see at the moment being identified as gender roles. Traditionally or way before, even now it happens actually, it's not really as it's back then. You go to a shop and you want to buy a toy for your baby, and the shopkeeper, you may be looking for suggestions and they'll tell you, hey, here, it's a baby girl. Okay, now the moment you mention it's for a baby girl, then they're automatically going to get you something to do with a baby toy, with the hair, with some kitchen stuff, and you mention it's a baby boy, they will get you some car driving, some army,
yes.
This, yeah, exactly. So this also has since before identified, and that's why we have a conflict between what existed and what is in now. There's that conflict. I don't know how we might be able to get rid of this because it's really existing, and I don't think it's going to be caught up with time anytime soon.
Because I am tempted to ask, there's something that she mentioned about work. Does it mean gender roles have a role to play when it comes to our profession? when it comes to selecting the professions that we choose, when it comes to general workplace, because we've seen there are careers that are dominated by men, we've seen there are careers that are dominated by women. Does it mean that all this is pegged on how we were socialized, or what is the determining factor for this?
Most of it, I'd say, maybe because I agree greatly with what she said, most of it is attributed to socialization. If you look at the maybe engineers that are here now, are people who probably, let's say for the most male engineers that we have, from a young age, maybe that's the aspiration they had in life. And all factors favored such an inspiration. We've had stories of girls who had to change their ambition because whatever dream they had was not feminine, and the family frowned at their thought of the daughter getting to a field that is masculine, and for some reason she ended up changing. And then for the few that are there, and the reason why some females are really praised is because they have defied the odds. You know, you find there's this other time, my first time to see a female matatu driver. I was very excited and I felt very happy to, you know, that she was taking me around. And you could even see from the kids, the street kids that were around. You see, it is not usual to see such things, you understand? So when you're getting to a point where we're having all these changes, then it's attributed to mostly the economic, the changes in economic times and all. And you could also see, also if you go back to history, when you talk about the World War, there was a great gap, and there was a lot of shift when the world wars occurred, the first and the second, because most men went to war, which is still cultural, where men are expected to fight, and women are supposed to stay home, prepare for them, food and all that. But when we had so many men going to war, so many men dying in the war, we had a gap. You know, roles had to be taken up. You know, we still needed doctors, we still needed nurses, we still needed teachers. So because most men died, you know, life had to continue. So what happened? We had these women stepping in, and surprisingly, they were able to perform as, you know, the same way men did. So with all that, there was a new realization that it's actually not fixed. You know, all these things are not fixed, and it's more or less the same thing right now, as she said. You cannot stay hungry as a mother just because, say, your husband is not there. Maybe the husband is dead or the husband is absent. You know, you won't stay there and say, because there's no work for washing people's clothes, there's no work for, you know, the feminine attributed roles. You need, and then you get an offer to do something that's considered masculine, or the thought of it being lucrative, like being a matatu tout. You won't stay at home just because, no, I'm a woman, I cannot do that, you know? Because your kids won't sleep hungry, you won't sleep hungry. You want to take pride in the fact that you can be able to survive as a human being and be able to raise the standard of living. So I think that's the role that the current economic times are causing, and that's why we're also having shifts where men are getting into some fields that were previously perceived to be.
I think you can hold that thought, because I have more questions to ask further on that, but we'll take a break shortly, then we'll come back. Welcome back to our conversation on gender roles in the 21st century. I'm your girl, Tabitha Moai, and this is Decent Conversations. So Anastasia, you are telling us that the change in economic times have kind of brought a shift, especially in the choice of careers. But I will want to pose a question, not only to you, but even to the panelists. At times we have these professions that are either male-dominated or female-dominated based on the nature of work. Yes, there are careers that are termed feminine and masculine, but when we go and look at the nature of work, at times what is the right way to put it? I would see like it's not favorable. The conditions are not favorable, say for a woman to work there or for a man to work there. How do we link that with socialization, or do we link it with the working conditions?
I'd really attribute it to socialization. And I will give you a practical example. I will use I want to give you an example. Let's just use the matatu industry. If you go to the urban, let's say towns, big towns like Nairobi, for instance, it is exciting, like she said, to see a woman driving a matatu. But if you go to the rural areas, it is a taboo. Who will want to be carried by a woman? If you come they'll be like, mwanamke, you will even want to do the job, but the environment or the reaction, you will lack support. So you might just end up not doing the job, not because you cannot do it, but because
of the environment.
Precisely that. But if you come to Nairobi, for instance, when the Thika Super Highway was being constructed, there was a lady who was driving those, I don't know what.
Bulldozers.
Those bulldozers, correct? Those bulldozers. And guys were happy about it. They really supported it. Actually, the media even featured her. There are places that she will not be given an opportunity. Not because she cannot do it, but because she cannot just be allowed. It is not acceptable for her to do that. So mostly, I don't know what kind of jobs you have in mind that you feel that are not favorable for whichever genders, but I really feel if you're given the opportunity and if it is acceptable, when you're not criticized, you're not demonized for doing it, you're not booed, if you're given the opportunity to do it, you can do it. I strongly believe.
I actually think everyone can do any job that they are comfortable with. As you're saying, socialization really plays a big role, because at times you go into those roles. Probably, let me use the example that we are using of the matatu industry. It's quite ruthless.
Yes.
So you really have to be rough and tough to survive in the matatu industry. Because I know this is off topic, but recently I saw a female conductor being harassed, and the person harassing her was a passenger who was drunk, trying to mistreat her and all that. She was quite firm, but what really impressed me was what the driver did, because the driver stopped the vehicle and came to defend her.
Thank you.
Because in normal situations, people will just look at it and keep quiet and do nothing. But what the driver did created, that creates now the enabling environment. So which means even if she's out at night in the night shift of early in the morning, she's safe.
Exactly.
Because the environment is conducive.
She has the support.
The right yes.
Environment.
Yeah.
And the support, the moral support.
Yeah, so for when we talk about the socialization, yes, I think it's important to also look at it in the workspace. Whether it's a construction site, whether it's a house, whether it's an office, the socialization plays a very key role. Yeah.
Actually, I was speaking to one of my male friend, and we having just a general discussion on gender. And what he said, why can't we one day just forget it's a male, it's a female who did this? Why are we not just fitting into the market and they live as a human? It doesn't have to be identified like this is the woman who did. Oh, hongera for the women. We are celebrating that the woman has made it to this far. Does it have to be identified that because of my gender, I wasn't meant to do it, but I've done it now, I'm being celebrated? This is where all the chaos come from, because we tend to think ourselves, actually from the media perspective. And when you go to cover story and then you say, it's a woman who did that. That's already creating that notion that, she wasn't meant to do it, but she did it. How can we change this kind of conversations and not to encourage to say this is for men, this is the way our society did construct us before?
Especially when it comes to professions.
Exactly.
Because you will hear say it is a woman who did this. So it doesn't, maybe we need to have the conversation of saying we don't have to attach gender to work. So work is work, provided it's well done. If it's not done well, don't say it's not well done. Because again, in the public transport, Uber drivers and Taxify and the other ones, every time I hear my friends when they are requesting, when it comes as a woman driver, they're like, oh my God, it's a woman. And I'm like, it's an Uber driver.
Yeah.
It does. At the end of the day, it's still a car and a driver in it.
Qualifications.
And she's qualified to to drive. Maybe there are other issues that come in because in terms of behavior, but it doesn't really have to classify us when it comes to work. So I think that's a conversation that we need to expound on.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that I know we might not dwell into it today, but it's something we need to look into. Yeah, so probably we can go ahead and talk about what roles now do we play when it comes to gender roles. Which role do men play? Which role do women play in terms of social construction and the whole society?
Actually, that again, maybe it might bring us back to what we just said, that we don't need to identify who plays this, who plays what. So basically, I could say at the moment in the 21st century, we have, we complement each other. This is the word. For example, back then when we tend to think that the man is supposed to go to work and bring the finances home to be able to support the family, then the woman is expected to take that money and buy food and, you know, go to the kitchen and cook and prepare that meal. So there is that support from him bringing the money to the family and the lady being able to prepare the meal for the family. There is a lot of complementation. If we pick from that structure where we were structured to, socially structured to behave that way, if we pick that one to the 21st century, and currently the woman can go to work as well, just like the man, and when she comes home, there's a notion that she has to go to the kitchen and prepare, and they were at work at the same time. So there's a lot of contradiction when we're talking about which role do each other play. What we could be looking at is how can we bring those parts together and to be able to take to drive the economy to the next level, especially when it comes to, for example, when we're talking about, let's look at a family. Let me just give a setup of a family. And you have the kids going to school. I've seen my mom waking up every single morning, and she has to prepare us to go to be ready to school when we were young. She has to prepare my dad to go to work, you know. And my dad can only wake up, finish, you know, take care of himself, take his breakfast, ask for his shoes and the socks, and then he has to leave for work. And my mom still is left with thinking, there's cows that need to be fed, you know, before she is working as well, and she needs to go to work also. So there's a lot of notion between the two genders, how they can balance the equation. So we have levelize and be able to complement each other.
Maybe let me just throw some spark into that conversation. We cannot deny the fact that we have male and female. Whether we complement each other and how we do it based on our social construction, at the end of the day, there are roles we will take. There are roles we will take, whether we look at it from the family setup, from the society setup. At the end of the day, there are roles we will take. So how do we create the balance, as you're saying, of complementing each other and who takes, who leads? Because at the end of the day, we cannot do the same thing. So if we are talking about family, there's what you will do, there's what I will do, but it doesn't mean that we are not complementing each other. So we need to bring that, because in the 21st century, there's a lot of overlap. What am I supposed to do? What is my responsibility? And if we cannot, if the only thing we are saying is complementing, we are not helping the conversation, because young men and young women need to understand. Yes, we're in the 21st century. We are having men, we are having women. We are all in this society. So how do we take our roles and build the community?
I strongly want to bring a different twist in back. I strongly want to go with what she said. I think we need to create awareness for people to complement each other. I will give you a good scenario. Growing up, I will talk about where I come from. I choose not to say my tribe, but where I come from. Yes, I come from Mexico. Now, in Mexico, how we do things is that a man is supposed to be taken care of. You understand? So you wash his clothes, you wipe his shoes, he comes home, you give him food at the table. If the food doesn't have enough salt, then you have to walk to the kitchen and give him salt. There is a danger in that when we have defined roles. And I will give you the danger. If, for instance, I am married, let's take a family setup, and I am married, and I am supposed to take care of the man. So in our scenario, a man is a recipient, because a man in my culture cannot enter the kitchen. A man cannot change a baby diaper because it's a taboo. That is not the work of men. So take a scenario where I get sick, or a case where I get an accident and I am incapacitated. What happens? This man is forced to marry again. So where am I left?
As a cabbage.
I have young children. I am incapacitated. And now because my man and the roles, we have created roles, then a man is ought to be taken care of. So he will get somebody else to take care of him. And so now you will start seeing my parents or my relatives now coming in to take care of me. You understand? And God forbid I could die. Or I could even make it. I could recover from whatever, let's say it was an accident. 2-3 years down the line, I recover. What happens then? Do I go back to this man who got another woman to take care of him when I was incapacitated? So it becomes a bit of a confusion. I will give you another scenario. If we have defined roles for male and female, for instance, the male is to provide, is a provider. Where I come from, again, Mexico, this is how we do things. Men are providers, they are the breadwinners. In a case where this man is not able to provide, what happens? Depression. What happens? Domestic violence. Because if I cannot provide, and I am a provider, then I ought to feel, I need to feel like a man.
Exactly.
And the only way I will feel like a man is if I stamp my authority whichever way. I am not providing, but I am the man. So I will slap you because you looked at me badly. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's a lot of danger, Tabitha, if we have defined roles. But if we create awareness whereby we complement one another, I am not able to do this, or even at home, as I do this, my man is doing this. Because it is not a taboo for a man to do whatever. This is your child, bottom line, mtoto ni wako. So ukimchange diaper, haina shida. You know, as I wash your clothes, as you cook for me, it is okay. Because at the end of it all, we will make life easier for each other. We will complement one another. So if you helped me to cook, it is not a problem if for 2 or 3 months you're jobless and I'm providing for you. You will not feel anything wrong because providing is dynamic. You could provide emotional, you could provide very many other things as I provide financially because we are complementing one another.
Actually, it's very dangerous. I will give an example of my family. My mom normally went to classes during holidays, and you know, at home, of course, my dad is receiving end, sorry to say, in terms of kitchen and how you arrange the kids. So, and you know, when one day when my mom left, we didn't even know, back in the village, you know, using kerosene and all that. We have no idea these things are not there. My mom is supposed to take care of them. So in the late, and we taking our dinner, and then we realize the kerosene is kaput. And then everyone is going to the store to check if there's kerosene. And then my dad realized, oh, we don't have. I say, okay, so your mom didn't inform you. You see, there's that gap that is automatically created the moment you start saying this is her role and this is his role.
Maybe you'll hold that thought and maybe we'll come back and discuss. Do we really now need to break down and say we don't have gender roles? Let's come back to that. We are taking a short break. Thank you, welcome back. And I want to pick from the point where you were saying we should look at gender roles in terms of complementing each other rather than giving defined roles. But I want to mix it up a bit and ask our biological makeup as women. We have women in our panel. definitely gives us a role of being mothers. So, and we are bringing the conversation around, like talking more about complementary. Don't you think we might lose out on some areas we might need to have like support system around the roles that we play as women?
I don't think so. Because a mother is just one of the parents who is as equally important as a father. And if as a mother, yes, you will take up this role of being a mother. If this child grows up just with the motherly love, without the father, then this baby is still messed up. Do you understand? And I don't feel like support is a good word. That's why I still want to go back to complementing one another. Because when for instance, I need to go back to school, does it mean that I have to wait for my children to finish school so that I go back to school? But we can help each other and complement one another. You as a father, if you're not in school right now, and I'm in school, for instance, I'll give you a good example, the police force, often they have to upgrade or they have to go back for trainings. You understand? Do you quit your job because I cannot leave you as the father of my child to go for this training, which probably could give me a promotion? But you know, you can cover up, you can compliment me well, and this child you can manage to make this child not to feel my absence. You can even come over the weekends with this child. Mommy is in school, but soon mommy is finishing school. You understand? We can complement each other. We can be able to fit in the puzzle without necessarily. When you say support, I don't understand. It means that my job is this and your work is to support. So if I'm incapacitated, what happens?
No, I'm talking about, we call them reproductive roles. So when you talk of reproductive roles, they are biological, they are not social. So when it comes to reproductive roles, at the end of the day, whether we are complementing each other or not, when you're pregnant, you need support.
Yes.
So, and that's what I'm trying to bring into perspective. Yes, we are agreeing that we need to stop looking at societal roles as this is what women should do, this is what men should do. When it comes to parenting, we are agreeing we need all parents are equally important. When it comes to work, we are saying a woman can be in a job that a man can be in. So no job is attached to any gender. We've come to that basis. But I'm talking of now when we look at biological roles, and most of the time it is women who are tied to biological roles. So when it comes now to the process and when we are looking at the family setup and the journey of motherhood, that is where I'm bringing in the term support, because it brings in a different kind of role that is not really social. Because we are now looking it in terms of now the family setting, but which I don't disagree with you. Yeah, maybe Anastasia or Judith can comment.
Maybe just to talk about it, I think it still goes back, it still takes us back to complementing each other. When you talk about gender equality, and this is the challenge, the whole conversation of gender equality, because most of the time gender equality has very negative, when people hear about gender equality, they have all these negative ideas going through their mind. It's not, when you talk about that, that does not in any way isolate any of the different genders from the fact that they need each other, you know, because we cannot do much about biology, you know, that is something natural. So when you're talking about motherhood and all, when you talk about, someone talked about creating awareness and trying to create all these shifts and making us understand that let us make gender fluid and not as fixed as it is, because if we do that, then it's going to work at the expense of another when such a role is not fulfilled. Things like when you get pregnant, you need support, you see. But you see, if you get to, that is, I think that is a normal thing, and both men and women understand that, because I would say you're at a point where you need support. To get to a point where there are few things you may need assistance with, if you get to a point where, say, the point at which you've just given birth, You know, you may not do things that you otherwise do before, or rather it will take time before you get back to your normal routine. Such things are normal, and that's where the whole idea of biology comes in. We cannot force our bodies to, you know, get to the extreme in the name of, because you're creating a shift, I need to defy, because it will work to our disadvantage. So I think the support system still needs to be there, and it still goes back to the idea of complementary, you know, relationships between men and women, and it doesn't really matter whichever clock the biological clock goes. At the end of the day, it's still that point. Maybe even when you talk about motherhood, because maybe this may be the only one of looking at it, but also look at the other women who are not privileged to. I wouldn't even say privilege, because we are living in an open society.
Yeah,
there are women who are not able to bear children. So they want to, but you know,
They don't want to.
They don't want to. Some of them can, but they don't. Okay, some of them can, they don't want to. Some of them want, but they're not able to. And you know, these are all dimensions that come in. But at the end of the day, how do we all exist without looking at someone and thinking you're incomplete because you are failing to meet your role, you're failing to do what is expected of you, you know, such things. And that's why we're talking about, can we try make these gender roles as fluid as possible? And that's why we're talking about, can we be a bit more liberal? People make choices without being attached to, you know, how can you say that and you're a woman? You know, I hear people say, there's one statement that's very common and it really annoys me. The problem is that the intellects also say that that guy won't talk on our mama. You know,
What does umama mean?
No, and most of the time, sadly, it's usually attached to negative, you know, funny, silly mistakes. Someone will do something flimsy, say something careless, or do something very funny. Someone say, "Acho mama," and it's very sad because you hear a fellow lady telling another, you know, someone else telling a guy, you know. So we need to get to a point where, as we create awareness, we are creating awareness so that, because it's in those small things. You make a mistake of making such a careless mistake, you have no idea how much that means, because it still takes us back to imagining the women are the careless gender, the weaker gender and all. And then we all start internalizing all this, and before we know it, it's acceptable, it's normalized, and then that's why we're getting, if a woman is defying such kind of careless normalizations, they think, who do you think you are? You don't fit in this society. So we need to redefine these gender roles, try and make them as fluid as possible, because if we continue making them fixed, it's still the same way. So there are people who don't really work so well with the 8 to 5 kind of routine. You know, for them that's not how they work. What if we make it an open society? What if we let creativity run the society? What if we let all these ideas just run without thinking, you're a woman, you know, you're a man, you should not be thinking like that, I'm disappointed in you, you know, such things. We should just let people be, as my colleagues say, without attaching reasoning, without attaching creativity, without attaching efforts to gender, because otherwise it's discriminating against one gender.
I like what you said, because the Acha Umama is very popular. And even we see when we are celebrating Women's Day or Mother's Day, you see those funny Facebook comments saying that if you're a man who does this and behaves this way, happy Women's Day. And it's, to me, I find it offensive, even if I'm not a man. But it's a negative connotation, because now it's like the society has created this perspective that if a woman behaves a certain way, it's okay. So we even give some people leeway to mistreat us, or if a woman insults you, probably it's PMS, you know. Yeah, so that notion of umama, I think it's
it's still a cultural conflict, whereby in 21st century we're talking about gender, these gender roles, and traditionally we were already structured socially on how we're supposed to, what gender roles are, what a woman's supposed to do. So basically what you're fighting currently is the cultural setup that might take time to switch in if we do the creation of awareness.
Create awareness, enough awareness, and create awareness whereby telling people it is okay. A woman can lead you. It is okay for your wife to be on the front line and you support her in the back.
It's okay.
It is okay.
It's okay not to mention it's a woman.
Yes, and it is okay it is okay
Give her time.
It is okay for your woman to be more educated than you, because probably you're lazy reading and everything. Support your wife to study. Let's break this thing of men should be on top, women should be. It's okay if we complement each other.
We look at coexistence.
Yes, if your wife is doing better than you, it is okay, and if your husband is doing better, it is okay. It is okay. Let's not fix it in a way, because I've seen even women who are struggling because of what you're saying, gender roles. Your husband has a degree and you feel like you can do a master's, and it is not acceptable.
Okay, great. It's been a lovely conversation talking about gender in the 21st century. I like how the conversation has gone and how we are looking at working together in terms of complementing each other rather than assigning specific roles to specific genders, and looking at how best now can we involve everyone in this conversation and making it like a woman thing or a man thing. It's all of us looking at how well can we better our society and play the roles equally. And thank you so much, Anastasia, for coming today. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Judith. And much more thank you to Salome for the time, for the commitment. And let's keep the conversation going. And to our dear viewers, we'd like to hear from you. Engage with us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook as Decent Conversations. We want to hear from you. Send us your comments, send us your feedback, send us your thoughts, everything. We want to hear from you. This has been Decent Conversation, and I've been your girl, Tabitha Mwai. Good night.